Eileen Gu gets 100% honest about grieving grandmother after winning Olympic gold. Team China's Eileen Gu earned her third Olympic gold medal on Sunday, setting a record in the free-skiing event. But with the high came a low, as Gu learned shortly after that her grandmother, Guo Zhenfeng, had died. Gu opened up about her feelings after defending her halfpipe title, allowing tears to flow down her face as she spoke about her grandmother's life. "She was a steamship," Gu said. "This woman commanded life, and she grabbed it by the reins, and she made it into what she wanted it to be." The 22-year-old continued to explain that the news didn't come as a complete surprise. However, Gu chose to focus on how her grandmother impacted her approach to skiing and to life in general. "She inspired me so much," Gu said. "The last time I saw her before I came to the Olympics, she was very sick, so I knew that this was a possibility. I didn't, probably, say that I was going to win, but I did promise her that I was going to be brave. She's been brave." Gu, who was born in the US but has chosen to compete for her mother's homeland of China, seemingly competed and cherished her victory with her grandmother in mind. She's managed to rack up 6 medals in 6 total events in both the Milan Cortina and Beijing Winter Games, becoming the most decorated freeskier of all time and undoubtedly making her grandmother proud in the process. The difficulty of competing in 3 events, making finals in 3 events. "I had to compete 6 times. I kind of liken it to a marathon, with the pace of a 100-meter dash," she said. "I took a big risk in trusting myself, and I'm glad that I did." At the top of the course at the 2022 Winter Olympics, Eileen Gu stood alone with her skis angled toward gravity and history. The cameras loved her poise, her brilliance, the way she could bend physics into choreography. But in that thin air, with the world's noise softened to a distant hum, she was not thinking about endorsements or headlines. She was thinking about her grandmother. Gold, for most, is a metal. For her, it was a memory. The girl who learned to fly. Eileen had grown up between continents and languages, carrying a hyphen in her identity like a bridge. Her talent in freestyle skiing was obvious early. There was a kind of lyrical defiance in the way she launched off jumps, as if the sky were not an obstacle but an invitation. By the time she arrived at the Olympic stage, she had already become a symbol: youth, excellence, cultural duality, ambition without apology. But symbols are heavy. They gleam on the outside and bruise on the inside. In Beijing, under the scrutiny of a billion expectations, she delivered. In the finals, her final run was a dare to herself, a trick she had rarely attempted in competition. She landed it. The stadium erupted. The scoreboard flashed what everyone already knew: Olympic gold. The medal hung around her neck like sunlight made solid. Reporters rushed forward. Flags waved. Social media combusted. Somewhere, the anthem rose like a tide, and somewhere else, quieter, deeper, grief rose too. The grandmother who watched every run. Her grandmother had been more than family. She had been ritual and refuge. The kind of woman who wrapped dumplings with patient hands and wrapped her granddaughter in fiercer love. She was the first audience, the most honest critic, the keeper of stories. When Eileen fell as a child, it was her grandmother who said, "Again." Not with pressure, but with faith. Not because winning mattered, but because trying did. In interviews after the gold, when the adrenaline had thinned and the mascara had stopped fighting tears, Eileen spoke plainly. There was no rehearsed heroism in her voice. "I wish he were here," she said. "Grief does not evaporate in victory. It sharpens." The medal, for a moment, felt less like triumph and more like absence. Because the person she wanted to show it to, the one who would have cupped it in her hands and laughed with astonishment, was gone. In a world that had crowned her champion, she was still a granddaughter. What gold cannot fix. People imagine that winning cures something, that the summit untangles the knots, that achievement is a solvent for pain. It isn't. In fact, the higher you climb, the more clearly you can see what is missing. After the ceremony, when the lights dimmed and the arena emptied, Eileen returned to her room with the medal resting on a table. It gleamed under lamplight, indifferent to emotion. She picked it up, felt its weight. It was heavier than she expected. So is grief. She later admitted that she had cried, quietly, honestly. Not the performative tears of a podium shot, but the private kind that arrive when the door clicks shut. She allowed herself to miss her grandmother without editing it for inspiration. That honesty startled people. Athletes are supposed to be invincible, smiling, resilient, composed, grateful. Grief is inconvenient to the narrative. It doesn't fit neatly beside gold. But there she was, refusing to pretend that success erases sorrow, the space between two worlds. Eileen's life has often been described as straddling worlds, American and Chinese, student and superstar, teenager and icon. But grief is another world entirely. It is a country without a map. During the games in Beijing, she carried her heritage like a banner and a responsibility. The crowds chanted her name. Children wore her number. Every run was analyzed, replayed, dissected. Yet grief is deeply solitary. In the middle of national celebration, she experienced something achingly personal. It created a strange contrast. Fireworks outside, quiet ache inside. That contrast did not weaken her performance. If anything, it sharpened it. She skied with a kind of clarity that only comes when you understand what truly matters. Winning was for her grandmother, but loving her was never dependent on winning. The run that meant goodbye. Some victories feel like beginnings. This one felt like a farewell. On her final jump, time seemed elastic. She rotated through the air, skis crossing, body aligned with a confidence built over years of early mornings and icy falls. For a fraction of a second, suspended against the pale winter sky, she looked weightless. It was the closest thing to flying. And perhaps, in some private corner of her heart, she imagined her grandmother watching from somewhere beyond the stadium lights. Not as a spectator tallying scores, but as a presence, steady, warm, proud. When she landed cleanly, the snow burst beneath her skis like applause from the earth itself. She had done it, but the first thought that pierced through the cheers was not, "I am champion." It was, "I wish she could see this." Honest, not untouchable. In the days following her victory, interviews multiplied. Headlines praised her skill, her composure, her cultural significance. Yet what lingered most powerfully was not a statistic or a trick name. It was her vulnerability. She did not package her grief into a tidy moral. She did not claim that winning healed her. She said simply that she missed her grandmother, that the medal made her proud and sad at the same time. There is courage in that simplicity. For young fans watching, especially those who see her as proof that ambition is allowed, it was a different kind of lesson. You can be extraordinary and still ache. You can stand on the highest podium in the world and still long for one person in the crowd.